everybody. My name is Chen Xiaoyu, and I come from Shanghai University of Medicine and Health Sciences. Today, the topic of my report is the effects of mobile app based low-carbohydrate dietary guidance on postprandial hyperglycemia in adults with prediabetes. My presentation today is mainly divided into 4 parts: introduction, methods, results, and the conclusion. The incidence of diabetes and the prediabetes increases with age. The latest national survey reported the prevalence of diabetes among Chinese adults was 12.8%, and that of prediabetes was 35.2%. 1 in 3 Americans, next page. Yeah, thank you. 1 in 3 Americans is reported to have prediabetes, and 9 out of 10 people with prediabetes don't know they have it, and 15 to 30% of people with prediabetes will develop type 2 diabetes within 5 years. Prior to clinical diabetes, the elevations of postprandial plasma glucose are the first evident metabolic abnormalities. Elevated post-meal plasma glucose levels may be associated with cardiovascular risk and some other adverse outcomes. So it is very important to pay attention to and reduce postprandial hyperglycemia in people with prediabetes. Next page. The routine recommendations mainly include anti-diabetic drugs, nutrition, and exercise therapy. However, drugs may be associated with side effects, and exercise can be difficult to maintain. Nutrition therapy is an effective intervention for the management of prediabetes, especially the lifestyle changes based on dietary habits. Among the various macronutrients, proportions a high carbohydrate content is a key risk factor for hyperglycemia. Last page. Determinant of post-meal glycemia. The American Diabetes Association described that a low-carbohydrate diet is a dietary strategy that refers to total carbohydrate intake of less than or equal to 130 grams per day, supplementing the diet instead with fat or protein. Low-carbohydrate diets allow significantly better glycemic control and a trend toward greater weight loss, but there is no conclusive evidence for adults with prediabetes in China. So the aim of our study was to design a randomized clinical trial to investigate the effectiveness of mobile app-based low-carbohydrate dietary guidance in adults with prediabetes. Next page. We aim to explore the effect of low-carbohydrate dietary guidance through a mobile app on postprandial hyperglycemia. In addition, we also investigated the impact of this new type of dietary guidance on other physiological indicators, such as atherometric measurements, body composition, and biochemical parameters. Next. Next stage. Next page, please. Individuals of both sexes age 30 to 80 years not taking drugs for treatment, such as hyperglycemic, hypertensive lipid lowering, and prediabetes, had ability to understand informed consent were considered eligible to participate in the study. Subjects with prediabetes with postprandial blood glucose were selected according to the American Diabetes Association and International Diabetes Federation IDFI criteria, which include the following features: fasting plasma glucose 100 milligram per deciliter to 125 milligram per deciliter, glycated hemoglobin 5.7 to 6.4%, and postprandial blood glucose 1 to 4 hours after ingestion of food. The exclusion criteria were as follows: refusal to sign the informed consent form, type 1 diabetes, gestational diabetes, mellitus, smoking, alcohol abuse, and not having an Android smartphone or not able to use a mobile app to communicate. Next stage. Next page, please. This is the flow diagram of the study. Next. Please, next. A flash glucose monitoring sensor was inserted under the skin on the back of the upper arm. The flash glucose monitoring used in the study measured interstitial glucose every 15 minutes for up to 2 weeks, and the reader retrieved glucose data wirelessly every 8 hours. In the 14 days preceding the start and the end of the study, all participants returned to the hospital to wear the flash glucose monitoring devices. It should be noted that the device locked into masked mode for the 14 days, both of the baseline period and end of the study. Sensor glucose measurements were not visible to the participants during this time. We randomly selected the consecutive 7 days of the postprandial blood glucose levels after the main meal and observed the fluctuation of post-meal glucose within 3 hours, such as feeding time, 15 min, 13 min, 45 min, and 2-3 hours after the meal. Next page. Prior to the study, participants needed to use the health management support service system and download the app. Professional staff explained how to use the app in detail. The input of necessary items in the app was the meal, including photos, sleep, and activity records. Dietary guidance was done through the mobile app by the same dietitian. Next page, please. These are pictures of our briefing session. Next page. We need to carry out multi-assessment, for example, anthropometric and body composition measurements, biochemical parameters, JABI, and dietary assessment score for carbohydrates. JABI, using a questionnaire with 70 questions, was constructed to analyze diet, exercise, mental health, sleep, and health consciousness. Higher scores mean better function. According to the 14-day diet photos logged into the app, the dietitian judged the nutritional content results, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. sugar intake of added meals. The assessment results included 4 grades, A, B, C, and D. A means very good, 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. B means good, 41 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. C means bad, 61 and 80 grams of carbohydrates. D means very bad, 81 grams or above of high carbohydrates. Next stage. Next, we will introduce the experimental intervention. The dietary guidance was mainly focused on a no carbohydrate diet, defined as total carbohydrate intake and less than or equal to 130 grams per day. We aim to have 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrates per meal, 10 grams per day in snacks, and 70 to 130 grams carbohydrates per day. The intakes of total calories, protein, and fat were not limited. The participants had been counseled to choose vegetarian sources of fat and protein and to avoid trans fatty acids. The intervention group received low carbohydrates dietary guidance twice. This is the dietary guidance 1 and 2 over a 3-month period. Participants in the intervention group used the health management support service system and APP, and the dietitian conducted a 2-week no carbohydrate dietary guidance program. This is dietary guidance 1. Dietary guidance was performed a total of 7 times from the next day of the briefing session of the dates of 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 14 days. After 2 weeks, the dietitian would invite the participants in the intervention group to the hospital to give feedback on their performance while they listened to information on the next stage. The second phase of dietary guidance was carried out 8 times from the next day of the briefing session at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 weeks. Dietary guidance 2. Next page, please. The primary effectiveness outcome was change in time in postprandial hyperglycemia between baseline and 3 months. Secondary outcomes were changes in astrometric measurements, body composition, biochemical parameters, JABI, and the dietary assessment score. Next page. 100 participants completed the study, 57 in the intervention group and 43 in the control group. 2 groups were comparable in terms of baseline characteristics. The details of the study population and characteristics are listed in table 1. Next. Time in postprandial hyperglycemia changed from 3.27 hours per day at baseline to 2.34 hours per day at 3 months in the intervention group, and from 3.08 to 2.96 hours per day in the intervention in the control group, with a between group difference of 0.81 hours per day. Next, please. The 2 groups were comparable in terms of post-meal glucose levels measured by flash glucose monitoring at baseline, figure 2A. Figure 2B shows the comparison of postprandial glucose after the intervention between the 2 groups, and the differences between groups were significant. Compared to control group, the post-meal blood glucose level at 45 to 135 mean after the main meal was significantly lower in the intervention group. Next, please. At the end of our study, the body fat weight, BMI, body fat mass, percentage body fat, visceral fat area, and all biochemical parameters in the intervention group decreased significantly before and after the intervention. Next. Compared to control group, there were significantly increases in 2 of 8 areas of the JABI in the intervention group. Next. Finally, we make a summary of this study. This study reported that mobile app-based low-carbohydrate dietary guidance lead to significant improvements in postprandial hyperglycemia. Additionally, this low-carbohydrate dietary guidance has a beneficial impact on weight, BMI, body fat mass, percentage of body fat, visceral fat area, triglyceride levels, dietary habits, and exercise physical activity as shown by the JABI and the dietary assessment of participants with prediabetes. The inexpensive, accessible health management support service system is very effective, intelligent, and effective in managing a large number of adults with prediabetes. The intervention showed that not restricting total energy in the low-carbohydrate diets is feasible and practical for practice medical staff to deliver in primary care. That's all my report. Thank you very much.